Good evening. It is Monday night, and of course, that means it's time for the Monday Night Euro Review Show with the Anglo-Italian pod. As always, my name is Rory, and this week I'm joined by friend of the show,
KH Analytics, Kieran Hill.
How are we doing, man? Good to have you back. How are we doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, doing very well. Millwall won on the weekend. Was
Nice.
watching a lot of football, so very happy this week. So yeah.
Perfect. I did see a great video from the Millwall Stadium of all the Millwall fans being held back by the world's most powerful rope. I really
Yeah,
enjoyed that video. Did you see it?
yeah, I did actually. A bit embarrassing from our behalf, to be honest. But yeah, it was it was good. I remember everyone was saying, yeah, that invisible rope holding them
I
back.
thought it was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Some things never change, but do love it. Nice. Well, this week we've got loads to talk about. Obviously, we're going to talk about the North London derby. I think I've got enough
hmm
clues behind me to let everyone know. Absolutely delighted with that. We'll be talking about Burnley and their survival hopes. Are they still alive? We'll be talking about Chelsea deciding to play. And of course, Salah versus Klopp on the sideline. It wasn't supposed to end like this. Then, of course, we'll go to Italy. We'll be talking about Milan, my home city for the moment, how it's been looking completely black and blue for the last week, how Inter are looking even better after a hangover. And of course, we'll be saying arrivederci to Salernitana. We'll be talking about the relegation battle, and we'll talk about that absolute ding dong in Naples as Napoli took on Roma. But before we get into the action, we're going to talk about our moments of the weekend. And well, Kieran, we've both been in cities that have been celebrating football this weekend.
Yeah, so I've lived in Derby for university, and on Saturday, obviously they secured their status in the Championship next season by winning 2-1, and the pitch invasion was one of the most mental pitch invasions I've ever seen. Honestly, it was crazy, and I was out at the pub later on in the day, and like the whole of the city are just absolutely buzzing. So that was nice to see as a student, to see everyone sort of in good spirits. So yeah, it was good.
Beautiful. Yeah, well, exactly. Here in Milan as well, it's been, I'm sure people have seen the video. So last night there was a concert. So they did the bus tour after the Inter Torino game. Huge bus tour. The whole city, all we heard was car horns again. We decided to stay at home, and I put it on Twitter. I'm simultaneously glad I stayed at home and gutted I didn't go. There was so many people in Duomo. They had a concert. There was fireworks the entire night. The whole city is still, well, half of the city is still in party mode. And the only thing I can think is just because I was lucky enough to be at the celebrations the night of the derby, went in to secure the Scudetto, and I thought, God, it would be horrible to be a Milan fan in this city tonight. Well, it'd be horrible to be a Milan fan in this city this week, and probably for the next couple of weeks. It's been non-stop partying, so love to see that. A lot of my mates who are Inter fans have said the celebrations have kind of been bigger than when they did the treble. Like, this feels absolutely huge, this one. So, yeah, incredible to see. But my moment of the weekend, without a doubt, is... Now, I need to get the player's name right. It's James Purge or Burge. He used to play for Port Vale, and he fell out with Mickey Adams, and they kicked him out of the club, and his kind of contract was torn up. And it's fair to say he holds a bit of a grudge. With Port Vale being relegated this week, he got his pilot's license in order to fly a plane over the stadium with a banner that was paid for by Stoke City Ultras, with a quote from their famous anthem, Why, Delilah, with the line, she stood there laughing, and then N40, which I think is the naughty 40, they're firm, right, at the end. And I just love this level of pettiness. Like, every time you think you've seen the most petty thing in football, someone goes one step further, right? This is just incredible.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, like exactly what you say. Yeah, you think you've seen it all pettiness wise, but that is just absolutely top class. Love to see it.
The thing is, he played for the club like 5 years ago or something. Like, it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
He was there when Mickey Adams was there, but proper waited and waited. I was like, and now. So yeah, Port Vale getting relegated put a smile on my face anyway. But that definitely cheered me up. Good work. Absolutely love that. But let's get into the show, and we're going to start in the Premier League, and we're going to start with, I've lost it. 3-2 at the Armitage Shanks. Absolutely love this. Now, all I can say, Kieran, is I've only just stopped shaking. Like, I measured my heart rate in the last 5 minutes of this game because I thought this isn't healthy. And my phone was saying, like, sit down, take a rest. Like, you need to recover. This is not healthy. It was insane. What did you make of the game before I get, because I'm just going to go off on this, but what did you make of the game as a whole? Like, I think it was a weird one. Like, Arsenal were worse in the first half, but scored goals, and then better in the second half, but Tottenham scored. It was a weird game, right?
It was a very strange game. I personally thought that Spurs' disallowed goal was actually onside. I thought that it was Gabriel's arse that was playing him on. And then so I thought that from there it kind of just everything just didn't really seem to go Spurs' way. And obviously we saw Romero with a free header at the back post hitting the woodwork. And I think at that point you're sort of thinking it's not going to be their day. But then after you went 3-0 up and then we saw the absolute gift that was Romero's first goal, I then thought as soon as that went in, it was game on. And, you know, once they got the second, we were watching them saying like this, seeing how the Premier League's gone this season so far. As soon as they got the second, we all thought they were going to get the third. So that might explain the increased heart rate. But I did think it was a good game. I thought there was some dubious decisions, and I won't get started on VAR, but
we're going to get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into some VAR, but but I thought there were some dubious decisions. But overall, I thought the game was, from a neutral perspective, really entertaining. And yeah, I mean, St. Totteringham Day, isn't it? So. Yeah, you must be buzzing.
It's weird because St. Totteringham's Day is like, it's nice when it's kind of an afterthought and you're like, oh shit, is it that time? Oh, nice. Yeah, good, we get that. And it wasn't like the focus, whereas in the past it's been the focus. So it was nice to have it as an afterthought. I think that we were not good at all. The second we started playing, we gave the ball away in really sloppy areas. There was a moment with Leandro Trossard where he loses the ball in the box, where Kulusevski goes down, where Maddison goes down. There was a few moments like that where I thought, we are not at the races today. We're playing the occasion, not the game. But before we get into the refereeing decisions, I think what we've seen from Arsenal this year, as opposed to last year, is like we lost the 2-goal lead at Liverpool. We lost the 2-goal lead at West Ham last season. This game last season is 3-3. It's arguably 4-3 to Spurs, right? But this year, we just had that grit. We had the calmness to just see the game out. Like, even when they got 2 goals and they were pushing, they still didn't manage to get a shot on target. Like, their 2 shots on target were the 2 that we gave them, right? It was a penalty and the David Raya mistake. Like, they didn't have any other shots on target. They kind of played into our hands towards the last 10 minutes by just throwing crosses into the box. Raya can take them all day. Like, and I think his mentality he showed after that mistake to just come and claim crosses, incredible mentality, right? And I'm only saying that after the event that we've won, right? If this is 3-3, maybe I'm slagging him off, right? But his mentality was incredible. I thought he really did well there. But I think Spurs, they weren't creative enough. Like, in between the 2 boxes, they dominated the game. Absolutely. Like, we just could not get into our groove at all. Apart from the beginning of the second half, I'd say we were looking pretty comfortable. But as all the pundits have said, all the footballers say, both games are won in both boxes. And Spurs just could not create or break into our box, clear-cut chances. And then at the back, now, I like Van de Ven and Romero, kind of, right? I like Van de Ven. Romero's a prick. But I think you cannot be considered good centre-backs or a good defence if you're giving away set pieces like that. Like, we've been good at set pieces all year. Like, how have Spurs not at least been slightly prepared for that? I found it really confusing.
Yeah, I did as well. I mean, you are sort of notoriously been known as the best from set pieces, especially, I mean, corners as well. Like, and it was always going to happen where you were going to stick men on Vicario for the corners, and that sort of just like, because that's what I think it was actually Sean Dyche started doing it against Spurs for Everton.
Yeah.
And then ever since then, it's sort of been like they've been quite struggling from corners. But I think sometimes you need those, as title winning teams go. I always say Alex Ferguson's Man United are a prime example. I think, you need those games where you're not at the races necessarily, but you just dig deep and find the result. And I think the mentality of that Arsenal side, I'm not necessarily saying I think you're going to win the league, but I think the mentality within the side, when you scored, you all had a little huddle and sort of like spoke about it, and exactly like that. But yeah, like just got it into you, like don't get complacent, and obviously it maybe isn't the nature that you'd have liked to win, being 3-0 up and then, nearly losing it, but it's never going to be easy when it's, a title race, is it? And you've got to have those moments where there's doubt. And I think you reacted to it really well. So
there was a huge test there, and I think we have to give Spurs credit because they just did not stop fighting, right? Like even I think we were about 2 minutes away from seeing them stop fighting. Like, because fans were starting to leave, the crowd was starting to get quiet, and then that David Raya moment that happens. But then once that happened, you could see the whole team woke up. They were going, like, I just felt like their midfield was just not, they don't have the strength in midfield to really dominate a midfield properly. Like, I think Saul wasn't at it. James Maddison has been anonymous. I can barely remember if he played. But I think you have to say that, like, Spurs, their spirit and the way they went in the game was really to be applauded. But defensively, they're just absolutely all over the place. I did love Ben White trying to take Vicario's glove off. If you do not know by now that Ben White is a massive shithouse and he's going to stand next to your goalkeeper, I don't think you've been watching the Premier League enough, honestly, because every Arsenal fan was going, why are they just leaving him there? Like, this is what he does. This is his role in the team. But I'm going to go to my Arsenal bias now and just talk about everything I loved about the game for a few minutes. Thank you, Spurs fans, for filming all of our goals from so many different angles and putting them on the internet. I cannot thank you enough. The amount of videos of Spurs fans, the one where they're saying to Saka, you let your country down, and then he cuts his ear to them. Incredible. The one of Declan Rice with Weird Al Yankovic at the back. And I think it's Danny DeVito as well. The fans stood at the back giving him dog's abuse. And Declan Rice turns around and gives a bit back. Absolutely love that. I think the arrogance from Saka, I love to see it because I really think it's something that he needs to... It just shows the level that he's at now, and he knows what level he's at, and that bit more confidence. I think he took an absolute kicking from Ben Davies yesterday. The ref should have booked him a hell of a lot earlier, but Saka just stood up, goes again, and rinses him again, rinses him again, rinses him again. I thought it was just an incredibly mature performance. Saliba and Gabriel, fantastic again. Havertz, I never, ever, ever thought Havertz would be this guy. I remember at Leverkusen, and when Chelsea signed him, we did the pod when they signed him, and I remember saying Chelsea have signed one of the best German prospects at the moment, right? And then we saw what happened at Chelsea, just didn't work out, despite him still being their top scorer last season. I think it didn't really work out, but I didn't see the work that he does. Like, even when he wasn't scoring as many as he is now, his work rate was always incredible. His defensive work was always insane. I think that is a model of like a centre forward's performance that we saw yesterday. And I think it's just incredible to see. And for him to get 2 against Chelsea and 1 against Spurs now in a week is just insane. It's insane. And I think it's just a huge, huge win for Arsenal. Huge win. And yeah, I'm just delighted. I'm delighted. I've just seen a comment from Curtis Checkley, which is, in all fairness, Saka did let the country down. Fine. If that helps you sleep at night, go for it. But all I know is that he's been putting a smile on my face for about the last 6 years, and I couldn't give a shit about much else, to be honest. So we need to talk about, what are the other talking points from this game? Ange Ball. Let's talk a little bit about Ange Ball. Is there a lesson here for Ange to learn about... Because he said after the game, there was an interesting comment about, if I thought that defending set pieces was going to make a difference to our performances, I would have done it. I think it's a really strange comment because you've lost the game from 2 set pieces. Like, do you think there's a lessons he needs to learn here?
I think 100%. I thought the exact same when he made the set piece comment. I was thinking, surely you're against the team who have scored, I think I'm right in saying, you've scored the most set pieces in the league. And, and as I say, notoriously good at set pieces. Why would you not consider that they're going to be a danger from set pieces? It just seemed like a very strange comment from me. I thought overall, obviously, I thought they were unlucky. I thought they were the better team, but there's only one stat that matters, and obviously Arsenal got the win. And I think it just I think the game management from Arteta sort of just took over at points, and I think it's just one of those ones in the big games. That's when the best managers step up, and Arteta definitely did it. And the togetherness of the team and everything was on full display yesterday.
Yeah, no, I think the Martinelli substitution in particular, because he didn't. If Van der Ven wasn't so quick, Martinelli gets through and scores a goal, but Van der Ven's pace is genuinely insane. But what I really liked was Martinelli's defensive work. He came on and just acted as a wing back. I think it was the last moment he cuts the ball out in the penalty area and just spams it into the stand. And you're like, this is like the dog's work that everyone needs to do. And I just thought it was absolutely incredible to see. But let's talk about VAR and the penalty decisions. Now, I have no complaints. I'll almost take it for Declan Rice kicking a Spurs player in the balls. Fine, you can have a penalty. But with the Kulusevski one, I'm going to shock you. I don't think it was a penalty, but I'm guessing you think it was a penalty.
Yeah, I did think it was a penalty. Yeah, I don't really have much else on it, but I did think it was a penalty, and I thought that you got away with it. I think all in all, I think there was a few decisions that I didn't agree with. As I say, I think that their goal should have stood as well. So I think overall, I mean, I hate to sort of dwell on the decisions because obviously it was a fantastic game, but I do think that they deserved a point from it.
Yeah, we're going to agree to disagree. I
thought so.
I think with the penalty, what it reminded me of was we got a penalty years ago in the dark days away to Wolves where the guy kicked David Luiz's shin and went down. And they got a penalty. And at that point, David Luiz was not initiating contact. He was just running behind the player, and the player there happened to be a contact. Now, the penalty was given there, so you could turn around and say, okay, well, there should have been a penalty here. But I didn't think that the Wolves one should have been a penalty. And I think Trossard isn't initiating contact here. He's simply running like across the back of him, I suppose. Is it clumsy? Yeah, but I think Kulusevski, from moving his leg, initiates the contact. I don't think Trossard initiates contact. I think that's why it wasn't given. I just don't think the threshold was enough for the decision to be overturned. The tackle after that is just a great tackle. James Maddison dived after that as well and just was embarrassing all day. But I think I can definitely see why people might think it was a penalty, but I would say I think they got the decision right. With the offside, I kind of feel like we've seen those goals given offside now. And whether I don't want to see those goals as offside, even when it's Spurs, right? I don't want to see those goals offside because it doesn't matter if your toenail's offside or your arse is offside. But we've seen them disallowed consistently all year. So I think it needs to be disallowed, I think. But fantastic win for Arsenal. Unlucky Spurs. And keep the videos coming because I'm absolutely loving them. Absolutely loving them. It's been keeping me going for 24 hours now. But let's move on from there. I realise we've been going on a little bit longer with that. And let's go to Klopp versus Salah, no happy ending. West Ham 2, Liverpool 2. Kieran, what did you make of this game? Liverpool again at the back. Before we get to Klopp versus Salah, Liverpool again at the back. Van Dijk looking a bit lost. It's all kind of petering out, eh?
Yeah, it was a very strange one against West Ham because I thought obviously the two goals. The first thing I sort of noticed was 2 goals for West Ham were both free headers.
Yeah.
And to have whether it's Van Dijk's fault directly, to have a player which many regard as the best centre back in Premier League history, allow him for 2 free headers to be scored is it's sort of beyond me, to be honest. And I think Quansah, he's I rated Quansah when he came in, but I think maybe he's a bit out of his depths in the title race at the moment because I think when you look at the Arsenals and Cities. Gabriel and Saliba have done a fantastic job, and City have just got about 6 world-class centre backs. So it's quite hard to compete with them at times. But I just think Liverpool's problem has been their depth and their ability to sort of adapt to injuries and things like that. So they really didn't impress me in the game against West Ham. I thought West Ham played the game management from Moyes. I know a lot of West Ham fans aren't his biggest don't give him a lot of praise, but I think the game management from them playing to their strengths and Liverpool's weaknesses was really quite impressive. And I thought overall, I saw that Liverpool had a higher XG, but I still thought West Ham were the better team over the course of the game. And I'm the last person that will be singing their praises if I don't believe that they genuinely were the better team. But I did actually think so, and I thought Liverpool sort of pressed them at the end. But overall, I thought it was a pretty shocking performance.
Yeah. It looks like any momentum that they had has gone now. And I think I said it last time I was on the show, but sorry. It just reminds me of Arsenal last year. Like the whole time, everyone was going, "It's too emotional." We were going, "No, it's not. It's not too emotional. We're fine." And then it turns out it was too emotional, and the whole thing fell apart. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing at Liverpool now. It's weird that like the more the senior players come back, the performances seem to disappear. Like they were getting better performances out of Conor Bradley than they are out of the players that have come in. If you know what I mean, I feel like there's just this kind of ennui that's set in of the players. Like no one really knows what's happening. Everything's all just kind of floating towards the end now. And I think it's all kind of been summed up by that moment between Klopp and Salah. Now, obviously, Salah has not been in good form, right? He's been missing lots of chances, been really off it. His first touch has been off. It's just not been. This is a guy who hasn't had a break from football in about 2 years. He played in the AFCON, right? Came back with an injury. He's just not been the same. So you can see why Klopp might have dropped it. Right, why Klopp thinks, you know what, you just needed a game or whatever, just take you out the spotlight, give someone else a go, and we'll bring you on if we need you, right? I can understand where Klopp's coming from, and maybe we've seen a bit of Salah ego there, but then if you look at it from Salah's side, you're like, mate, I have delivered for you at every opportunity, every trophy we've won. I've been a key part, if not the most key part of it. Like, why are you dropping me for these huge games? Like, how do you see this one? It feels like a kind of sad ending, right?
Yeah, I think if you're a Liverpool fan, it's definitely a very sad ending to a like amazing fairy tale. I mean, say what you want about him, not winning as much as maybe Liverpool fans sort of seem to think he did. But I do genuinely believe that like Klopp's era has been like incredible, and that Salah has been one of the key reasons as to why. However, but I can see where they're both coming from, because of course Salah, even though he scored 17, 18 goals in the Premier League this season, it doesn't take a genius to work out. He's been pretty terrible the past since they've sort of fallen off. Especially since they got knocked out of the Europa League, and he's not looked the same player as he did first half of the season. So I can completely understand the decision from Klopp to drop him. However, I don't think that's the way to react from Salah in saying, we don't know what was said, but it looked like something he definitely sort of spat out at him and was not impressed. And I think, firstly, I think it's quite unprofessional. And secondly, I think if he's being brutally honest with himself, he'll know that he hasn't been great over the last few weeks. And that, in a team that needs to essentially every game for Liverpool from the Everton game onwards was a cup final. And they had to win every single game. And if you need to do that, and there's a player that's not performing, it can be, Messi, Ronaldo, Salah. You got to drop them. It's just when you need 3 points in a cup final, every game's a cup final. And I completely understand it from Klopp's perspective, but I also do understand it from Salah's. So it's a tricky situation.
What I found really interesting was the comments afterwards as well. Like, obviously, Klopp came out and said, no, everything's fine as far as I'm aware. It's fine. Like, we've talked about it. It's fine. Now, Salah, kind of famously, I've never seen an interview with him, right? He doesn't do interviews. I don't think I've ever heard him speak, really, right? Like, he is very private. And I think it's one of those weird things where he's obviously come out through the mix zone, and rather than say nothing, he said, I can't say anything, which says so much more than saying nothing, right? It's kind of like a very modern footballer thing to do, right? It's like, not even that, like the annoying person on your Facebook who's like, oh, I'm so upset, but doesn't tell you what's upset on their status and waits for someone to go like, you okay, hun? It's that kind of thing, right? Of like, and I just found it really, just dropping that grenade there was a bit. Now, maybe he meant it in a different way, but I don't know if you can really interpret it as any other way as like if in the classic Mourinho, if I speak, right? He's he's trying to make more of it, right?
Yeah, and it seemed like a bit of a sort of childish response in many ways. It's a sort of thing that we'd usually see happen down the road at Man United.
No, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
100%.
It's got Man United written all over it. But yeah, I think I genuinely just think he's thrown his toys out of the pram, and I think obviously, as I say, like the reasons why maybe he felt that he should be starting, I do get it. I partly get it, but I do. more sympathise with Klopp in the respects of what I said, but like it just seemed like a very childish response from Salah, in my opinion. But you know, what can you do? I would be very surprised if we saw him playing for Liverpool next season, just purely because I think if he's gonna make a move to somewhere like Saudi or somewhere like maybe even like a PSG or somewhere like that, now's the time to do it while his stock's still high. Because if he is declining in the way that sort of a lot of people are saying that he is, and he's not been at his best, then his price is only going to go down. He's not he's not going to have the stock that he's got now.
It'll be interesting to see, because they've been briefing today that Liverpool expect him to stay, but they've said that last year, and he came very, very close to leaving for Saudi, right? So it'll be interesting to see where this goes, and if Arne Slot is going to talk to him and be like, "Look, just one last dance, kind of thing. Let's go." It'll be interesting to see. But there's a few more talking points from this game I wanted to talk about. Cody Gakpo, really, really weird moment with the referee. So he blows for play to start again. The keeper throws the ball out, and Gakpo runs to the ball, but then doesn't hit it in the net because the ref kind of tells him, no, stop. Like, that's not like... The ref completely fucked up there, right? Like, that was a huge, huge mistake.
Yeah, massively. I mean, if Gakpo had put that in the goal, like if he put it in the net, it's a goal. Because it was just a very strange... I really didn't know what to make of it, because it wasn't a free kick, and it was... like if he'd have put it in the net, then it would have counted, presumably. But I don't know, because the ref blew the whistle, didn't he? So
yeah, and he was telling Areola to sit down, and he was like, no, go down, so you can get treatment. He was like, no, I'm fine. Go down, so you can get, like... He must have been shitting himself at that point, the ref.
Yeah, 100%. It was a very strange one. Yeah, I think he was exactly what you say. I think he was shitting himself and, bottled a big decision. But it would have made his decision a lot tougher if Gakpo just sort of rolled it into the net, which he easily could have done.
Yeah. Arguably, he should have done. I think I've seen a lot of Liverpool fans just going, just smash it in the net and let the ref deal with it. And then VAR can deal with it and we can figure it out. But just first thing, hit it into the net. Yeah, really weird one. And last one on this, David Moyes' comments about Klopp at the end of the match. I think David Moyes is an underrated weirdo. People don't realize how weird he is. His comments about slapping that woman a few years ago, he's a bit of an oddball. His comments about Klopp, when he first started the answer, I was like, is he being serious? He played the deadpan really, really well with the like, oh, he's too big, his teeth are too bright, I'll be glad to see the back of him. Oh, bloody hell, David, calm down. And then he kind of, okay, right, yeah. And then he kind of goes into it. I do love Moyes, but this feels like he's not going to be there next year. He shouldn't be there next year, right?
No, I think it's a very sort of difficult situation, because they're obviously, he's going to go down as a West Ham legend now that they've obviously got the European trophy. No matter what European trophy is, unfortunately, it does count, unfortunately.
It does count.
But yeah, no, I think he's obviously a legend for that, but I think what a different manager could get out of this team, because they've got an unbelievable team, and I think they've got a team that could really challenge for a top 6 spot next season. I genuinely believe that. I mean, Bowen is outrageously good. Kudus, Paqueta, if they can keep him.
Yeah.
Ward-Prowse. I just think they've got really good players from top to bottom, even the likes of Areola and Zuma at the back. And I do think that giving those players to David Moyes to sort of, set up reminds me a bit like the England team at the moment with Gareth Southgate.
Okay.
Being honest. Like, I think it's like, it just feels like you need a manager with a bit more flair. And I've seen them linked with that Amorim. I mean,
that would be
huge.
It
was shut down. If he went to West Ham, I think they could really go for top 6, honestly.
Yeah, no, it would. I really I know you obviously don't like West Ham, but I really hope I've got a mate who's a West Ham fan. I always want them to do well. I really, really hope they need a manager. But also, I was looking at their defense. They've conceded 65 goals this year. Like, they need someone who can also shore up a defense. Like, for a manager like David Moyes, who's famous or kind of known for being kind of, quite pragmatic and, watertight back, and then we'll see what happens up front. They're actually conceding a lot of goals this year, so they need someone who can sort that out as well. Like, obviously, Ogbonna, love him, but he shouldn't really be starting Premier League games anymore. I think you need an update there. But yeah, I think there's a lot of promise in that West Ham squad. So hopefully next year we can see them kick on a little bit. But let's leave that game there, and we're going to go slightly down the table. And Chelsea finally decide to play Aston Villa. Is classic Emery. Guys, I keep telling you, every so often you just concede 30 shots and let a two-goal lead slip, and everyone's not sure how it happened. But before we talk about Villa, let's talk about Chelsea. When they decide to play, they're a very good team. They just only seem to decide to play in like 10-minute spells.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it was a strange game because it was really a tale of two halves. Obviously, 2-0 down at half time. And then, like you say, they just sort of all of a sudden just seemed to click into gear. And as soon as they did that, Villa just looked unable to deal with them. And obviously, like you say, I think it's because Emery's so heavy on his like analytical and like he's so data driven and everything. And I think that when you come up against a team like Chelsea, who are so sort of unpredictable, it makes that data driven approach sort of not as successful at times, I think. But I think once they clicked into gear, Chelsea would just looked like levels above. And Jackson had a free header, hit the post, should have scored, and arguably they deserved to win the game. I mean, Aston Villa in the first half were like, I thought they were really good, and their two goals were really nicely worked and really nicely finished. But it just seemed like a bit of a capitulation on their behalf. But Chelsea just, I thought they were outrageously good in the second half.
Yeah, Palmer should have scored as well. He had a one-on-one where he broke through, where he really should have. You expect him to put that away. But yeah, for Villa, I just feel like they're running out of gas a little bit. Like second half, they looked super, super tired. They've obviously got a big game coming up this week, this midweek as well. And I just hope they don't run out of steam at the wrong time, because as much as the gap between them and Spurs now is 7 points, Spurs have 2 games in hand on them. So like all of a sudden that's looking at 1 point, and then they've both got tough games coming up. I just hope Villa don't run out of steam at the wrong time. But with Emery, we know it has and can happen. I think it's an interesting point you made about Chelsea. Like obviously with Emery, he's been accused quite a lot of like paying more attention to the opposition than his own team almost. Like, if you know what I mean, of kind of over preparing for the opposition without thinking about how his team's going to play. And for a team like Chelsea, who you don't know what's going to happen from 1 second to the next, how do you prepare for Chelsea? Like, they have 0 patterns. They have 0 method, it seems. They have no, like, main players apart from Cole Palmer who are standing out and consistently taking responsibility. You don't know what the starting 11 is going to be. You don't know how angry Madueke is going to get at the Clouds. Like, there's just so many unpredictable things that happen in that team. I don't know how you prepare for them. So, yeah, I think they really did shock Villa in the second half. But for Chelsea, look, the next game, they'll just throw in another stinker and we'll be like, oh, there they are. Like, you know kind of what's going to happen. But the story today that's interesting is that Thiago Silva has announced that he's leaving. Now, this isn't really a surprise to anyone. I think his missus has basically ensured that he's leaving. But is this an issue for Chelsea that another big character is leaving the changing room? Because they lost Jorginho, they lost Havertz, anyone with any experience basically last year left. That's another big character that's going to be difficult to replace for them, right?
Yeah, and I saw today Madueke came out and said, you know, that Mauricio Pochettino, this is actually sort of good from him. He said that Mauricio Pochettino and Thiago Silva were the ones that, as you'd imagine, were in the dressing room saying, you know, giving the motivational team talk. Yeah. And I just feel like when Thiago Silva goes, who do Chelsea then look to be that experienced leader? They've got a very young squad. I know Conor Gallagher's obviously a bit of a leader, but is he enough? Is it enough having him and a bunch of sort of youngsters leading the team? I'm not sure. I think Thiago Silva was a vital, even though they haven't been that good. I think Thiago Silva was a vital part of, you know, being the team leader. And I think you need someone like that. And I think they'll really miss him.
Yeah, no, I think Gallagher's an interesting point, because I think personality, you know, work ethic, Drive, I have zero doubts about Conor Gallagher. I think he's like going to run until his legs literally like collapse. That's not an issue with Conor Gallagher. I think the issue is he's not that good. I feel like on the ball, sometimes he's often like quite loose with the ball, loses possession quite a bit. Like he scores the odd goal, but not often enough. I feel like he's kind of caught between two stools in the midfield role of, is he an attacking midfielder? Is he a defensive midfielder? Is he either? Is he both? I feel like it's kind of hard to define. He's still not nailed down that role in the midfield because he hasn't shown any consistent, obvious quality yet, apart from when he was at Palace, right? He had that consistent run, and maybe that was more his level. I don't know, but I think character-wise, he would be great for the changing room, but you also need to have the ability that those other players are looking up and going, okay, he's demanding performances from us in his quality, right? Like Ødegaard at Arsenal, like Fernandes at United to a degree, right? Like every player at City, whoever it is, these players that not only their character, but their performance goes, oh wait, I've got to wake up. And I feel like Gallagher doesn't quite have that in his pocket yet. He's still only 24. Like he's young himself, if you know what I mean. Like he's just kind of over that young player thing, I suppose. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see it'll be interesting to see what Chelsea do anyway. But it'll be really interesting to see what Chelsea do in the transfer window in terms of bringing in some experienced players or trying to get some character in that change room because it's severely lacking at the moment. But before we move out of the Premier League and to Serie A, let's go to the relegation battle. Manchester United won, Burnley won. We're going to take a little bit of time to laugh at Manchester United, but first, let's talk about the relegation battle. We were not the only ones, I think, in the football talking shite sphere that kind of had Burnley going down and down with Sheffield United. They have now got themselves within 2 points of safety behind Nottingham Forest. They've drawn two and won one of their last three. We have to say that Vincent Kompany has learnt lessons and he has kind of stuck to his principles a little bit. They play nice football, but we were kind of having a go at him for not adapting, but it looks like his team and more importantly, his players have adapted to Premier League life, right?
Yeah. And I think even though he's still got the same sort of philosophy and everything, which is obviously good. You like to see a manager do that. I think earlier on in the season, they were a bit too stubborn and, not wanting to change at all. But they've still, as you said, they've still been playing some nice football. It's just, they've adapted to the league a bit finally, and whether it's too little, too late, we're yet to see. But I like they looked much improved over the last few games. Obviously, they had Sheffield United last week beat them, which was a massive because we sort of always were putting those two in the same bracket until that game, and then Burnley went out and got
battered them.
Absolutely battered them, and now we're looking at Burnley in the same category as Luton. Obviously Sheffield United down now, but they both, I'd love to see one of them stay up, one of the two. But is it too little, too late? I think potentially, but I'd love to. I want to be hopeful for them because I think they.
No, sorry, yeah, I think even if they do still go down, it leaves less of a bitter taste in the mouth where you're like, okay, we finished positively. We got close. We really nearly did it, as opposed to like, okay, we never stood a chance at any. And like going into the championship season next year, possibly you'd be a bit more like, okay, we're so close, guys. We go back next time, we stay up, right? And I think it's like, so it leaves a less of a bitter taste in the mouth. I've been really, really impressed with because I think, as you said, they stuck too rigidly to the playing out from the back at the beginning, and it was just, okay, guys, you have to learn. Like even Arsenal yesterday against Spurs just started spamming it long towards the end. So you're like, fuck that. Like there's a certain time and place for these things, right? And it felt like Burnley at the beginning of the year were just like gluttons for punishment, and now they're starting to be like, the last couple of games they've been like, okay, there's a time and a place when we need to relieve pressure. It's okay to pump it long. It's okay to kind of, go a bit agricultural at times. So I've been really, really impressed with them. Obviously, bringing Muric in goal has been a huge help as well, apart from the Brighton game. And I think, there's been lessons learned along the way. What's interesting for Burnley as well is their games coming up. They've got Newcastle at home, which is a difficult game, right? Newcastle absolutely all of a sudden within a shout of Europe when it looked like they were gone. Tottenham away, which is going to be a rough one because Tottenham playing for Champions League. But then the massive game, and this could possibly be the game of the day on the last game of the season, depending on how the title race goes. Burnley hosting Nottingham Forest on the last game of the season. As I say, currently separated by 2 points. Forest's games aren't much easier. Well, I say that. They've got Sheffield United away next, but then they've got Chelsea at home, and then obviously Burnley away. Do you see this one going down to the last day? Because I think they might still be within touching distance by the last game of the season.
Yeah, I think they might be. However, if I had to call it now, I'd say that I don't think it's going to go into the final day. And I'd love to be optimistic and say it will. I just think Forest will get. I think Forest will. Well, Sheffield United are not playing for anything now. Which, don't get me wrong, I've seen it before where that makes a team better. We've seen. I can't really off the top of my head think of an example in the Premier League, but like when a team's like down and out in 20th, they're just got absolutely no pressure on them. They turn into incredible.
I've seen the Alex do it a million times. Trust me, we've been relegated, and all of a sudden we beat top of the league. And like, where was this all season? Like, where did this come from? So it does happen. You're right. It does definitely happen. But yeah, it'll be very, very interesting to see Nottingham Forest and Chris Wood. You are dead to me. I hope you never come back. I don't know how Chris Wood didn't bloody score yesterday. Absolutely ridiculous. But let's just take a very quick moment to talk about Manchester United because I always have to laugh at them. Mainly Eric Ten Hag. His comments after the game of United being the most dynamic and entertaining team in the league at the moment. He's right, but not in the way he thinks he's right. He's incredible in his post-match conferences, right?
I'll tell you what, I actually just love tuning into. There's 2 things I do when United have a bad performance, and it's I will look at Ten Hag's post-match press conference, and I go straight to Mark Goldbridge's channel.
Yes. Oh yeah, 100%. Every time. Yeah.
Every time without fail. And yeah, I mean, it's a very strange. We've had a strange week for manager comments, and it was a very weird one because, like you say, yes, they are. Them and Chelsea are probably the most entertaining teams to watch in the league, but it's probably because there is absolutely no balance to that Man United team. Like, and they will just. It almost seems like they're trying to throw away leads at times. So yeah, I was a bit confused by how he felt the need to say that, as if it sort of makes him look any better. But he said,
No, he's a deeply, deeply weird man. I think, and he keeps comparing the team to like the Ferguson teams. I'm like, mate, stop talking about Ferguson teams. You're not doing yourself any favors. No. Like, stop reminding people. Just insane, man. But we do have to say, Anthony's first Premier League goal this season. So congratulations, Anthony. Teddy of Sonic. That was something. And United, just continue to be United. Fantastic. Got all the time in the world for it. And just very quickly to wrap up the other results in the Premier League before we move to Serie A. Elsewhere, we did have Wolves beating Luton. Fulham drawing 1-1 with Crystal Palace. Incredible goal from Jeffrey Schlupp in that game. Absolute beauty of a goal. That Newcastle beat Sheffield United 5-1. Of course they did. Everton unbeaten in 4, loads of clean sheets, beating Brentford 1-0, and now officially safe. Incredible job from Dyche in his tracksuit and Everton. Really, really happy for them. Bournemouth 3, Brighton 0. Brighton now have as many wins as Everton, or Everton have as many wins as Brighton, I think. Are we low-key ignoring that things are going really badly at Brighton?
I think we are. I genuinely do believe we are. I think it's one of those ones where De Zerbi came into the league and started playing this really sort of risky, pass it out from the back. We never take long goal kicks. It's all European and continental and very nice to watch. But it's a results business at the end of the day. And obviously he was getting those results at the start. And I even saw, when Klopp said he was going to resign at the end of the season, that they were linking him to the Liverpool job. Now that's all gone very quiet, hasn't it? And the rumours and because they're dropping off, and will it be sustainable for next season? They're gonna have to. Well, they always recruit very well, but they're gonna have to pull something out because they've just been woeful recently.
Yeah, well, the gaps they were leaving against Man City as well were absolutely criminal. I couldn't believe that performance. I thought, stop trying to impress Pep and try and win the game. Like, try and do something. It was genuinely insane. But we're going to leave the Premier League there for now, and we're going to go to Italy. And let's talk about this fine city that I'm lucky enough to live in. The atmosphere has been incredible. We covered it a little bit on at the top of the show, but let's do it again. Inter 2, Torino 0. All the players shaking off fairly severe hangovers. Well, I don't know if you saw the Instagram lives that they've been jumping on all week. There was Thuram with Lautaro and Çalhanoğlu and Steven Zhang and everyone all having a great time. And this is, well, as much as Torino just handed it to Inter with the penalty and getting a man sent off and just doing everything they could to help Inter, it was still an impressive performance from Inter. They still just look so impressive. I just can't help but regret that they didn't get further in the Champions League. But without bringing the Inter fans down, they've just been so incredible this year, and it's great to see them continuing it, right?
Yeah, it's brilliant. Like you say, they're on the beach, and often you see teams that are on the beach and they will just, you can tell they're hungover, you can tell they've been out the night before, but Inter, they really sort of switched it on, and Hakan Çalhanoğlu is a fantastic. I called him world class the other day, and I stick by that. I think he is that good, and I think he's a phenomenal player. Obviously, great left-footed volley half volley to like put it into bottom right. The technique on that was phenomenal, and he just seems to be getting better. And I think, Inter fans have every right to be really like over the moon about this win. And I bet, as living in Milan, I bet you've seen it all firsthand.
It's been incredible, honestly. I think I've been lucky and unlucky enough to see this city kind of celebrate a few times. So I saw Inter win. I was here when Inter won the Scudetto under Conte. That was amazing, but it was kind of locked down, so the celebration was a bit weird. Still a good time, but the celebration was a bit weird. Then we saw Italy beat England. I just went home. Then I saw Milan lift the Scudetto. I'm not really that bothered. This one felt like the big celebration. This one felt like Inter celebrating for the last Scudetto and this Scudetto, and obviously all the narrative of like the second star taking it from Milan in their own stadium, in their own game, where they're on 19, and just so much narrative you can barely contain it. And yeah, the scenes are just incredible. Every house you walk, or every other house you walk past now has got an Inter flag flying out of the window. There's people still beeping their horns driving down the road, and it just feels like a big moment. And what's really important now for Inter, they really have to build on this and go again next year. And because I think this team is more than good enough to win the Champions League, without a doubt. Like, this team and the football they're playing, if they keep Inzaghi, Çalhanoğlu continues, Barella is just one of my favorite players on the planet. Like, you've got Thuram and Lautaro partnership only going to get stronger. I think maybe upgrading a little bit on players like Darmian, getting another striker, because relying on someone like Arnautovic and Sanchez is a little bit like it's just not worked. So I think maybe getting another striker option or another like kind of attacking midfield option there. But it's really important that they build on this and kind of keep this momentum going, because I think they've been playing the best football in Europe. And I think they've been like the hardest team to live with. Obviously, what happened in Madrid was just a complete pazza Inter. It was a complete panic. They just couldn't score. It felt like the tide was turning and they couldn't react. But I think this team has so much more to do. And I think next year we could see them not only retain it, but really put a marker down. And yeah, Çalhanoğlu, he's now on 13 goals this season, 3 assists. He's a player that when he was at Milan, I knew he was decent, but I never really saw it. Honestly, I was like, okay, they've taken a punt. They've signed him on a free just to piss off Milan. Like, I didn't see it as this huge thing. But to say he's become an icon is like an understatement. It's like, not only because he's come from Milan and but his performances every game, basically. He has just, as a regista, he's the best in the world at the moment. Like, his line-breaking passes, his defensive work, his goal output, like everything, he's just been incredible. Like, and his penalties are very good. Like, he takes the responsibility. He really drives his team. I just think he's going to go down as like one of the bandiere potentially at Inter, one of the like all-time icons. It's just incredible. It is incredible what he's doing. Scenes from the celebration that I particularly enjoyed. My highlight was Dumfries. Have you seen the banner?
I saw it. It was brilliant. Unbelievable.
Incredible. Now, Teo Hernandez is a player that, unless you support Milan, no one fucking likes him, right? The guy's a bellend. And Dumfries lifting the banner, which was Dumfries and Teo Hernandez as his dog. I think it's from GTA, right?
GTA is the Franklin and his dog meme. Yeah.
Unbelievable. And the way he lifts it, and he's just like, yes. Like, the next derby is going to be absolute carnage, because the last one, they were out to kill each other. Like, there's a great picture of Dumfries, and it reminded me of a shot of like the Lion King. He's like on his haunches looking up at Teo Hernandez, like, I'm going to kill you. Like, they absolutely despise each other. Really enjoyed that moment. And from all accounts, the concert last night was fantastic, and the fireworks didn't keep us awake too long, so I can't complain too much. But fantastic for Inter. Torino were just absolutely shocking and just threw their hand in after about 5 minutes, but Torino have got nothing left to play for. We shouldn't really be that surprised. If we move on to the next game, let's go for Napoli 2, Roma 2. Now, this was a game, a lot on the line. Well, obviously now in Serie A, it looks like 5 teams are going to get Champions League. It would take all the Italian teams to royally fuck up for them to not get 5. It could be 6, depending on how well they do. So Roma almost secured Champions League. Napoli, any hope of European football is basically gone now. But watching this game, I couldn't believe how they didn't win. They had so many chances. But it's kind of been the tale of their season, right? Just profligate in front of goal, a bit lost, disconnected. Like, what did you make of their performance?
I think it's a very strange one with Napoli. I mean, they missed Zongbo Anguissa straight off the bat. I think it was about 4 or 5 minutes in, missed an absolute sitter. And like, I don't know, I feel like it was harder to get it that wrong than to score. Like, honestly, I didn't understand what happened when he did it. But yeah, I think their end product was just a bit off. And I think the build-up play looked as good as ever, really. In terms of like, they looked like sort of flashbacks to last season in terms of the build-up play, but the finishing itself was atrocious. And Osimhen, especially, I always think Osimhen in terms of his build-up play and his ability to find shooting opportunities is like maybe one of the best in the world. Yeah. But then just, the end product was just missing. I know he did score, but it just...
He should have had a few more.
He should have had a few more. He should, definitely. And I think I didn't think that the Roma penalty was a penalty.
It was
harsh. If it was harsh. And then, but not to dwell on that too much. I mean, I thought Napoli were, like, I don't know how they didn't win. And it was a great game of football, but they'll be very disheartened that they, missed out on 3 points there.
This exactly, and it is the story of their season. Obviously, Calzona is not going to be there next year. It's kind of a man just to get them through the next 4 games. It definitely feels like that. Conte was linked this week. It's kind of apparently done. I'm not sure how Conte and De Laurentiis would work together. I'd give it about 8 weeks before one of them would kill the other, but it would be interesting to see. So obviously, I think it feels like a squad that knows that they're just waiting for the season to end. But I think they're just... defensively, they've lost all solidity, and just it's not great to see. But we do have to say, for Roma, Miles Villar, I think what Mourinho was doing, continuing to play Patricio, is genuinely puzzling. I was never really impressed with Patricio when he was at Wolves anyway. I thought he was just a kind of average goalkeeper. He was fine, never did anything to impress me. At Roma, he definitely did more things to annoy me than impress me. And I'm not sure why Mourinho stuck with him, but he did. And one of the best things De Rossi's done is brought in Miles Villar. He's instantly shored up. I know they conceded 2 here, but he shored up the defense a lot more. He comes up with big moments. And he had a few big moments in this game as well, right?
Yeah, he made some incredible saves out there for Kvaratskhelia. Honestly, I'm so bad at
Close
the name.
Enough. Close enough. We know who you mean.
Yeah. So his shot, he had one where it was an absolutely fantastic save, and he made a few brilliant saves. But like you say, it almost feels like Jose Mourinho was going off the name of Rui Patricio and the fact that he's I don't want to say he's biased towards Portuguese players, but the fact that he's Portuguese and the name of it, and the fact that he was Portugal's number one for a long time, and that sort of name holds a lot of weight. So maybe that was part of the reason. But yeah, it does feel like Villa is just leagues above Rui Patricio in net for Roma, and I thought he had a great game against Napoli.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. We do also need to say, just moment of the match, not only because it was a last-minute equaliser, but Tammy Abraham scoring exactly 365 days since his last goal in Serie A. At the back post, alive, gets the header. And Tammy is a player that I really, really love. This move to Roma has been incredible for him in his career, and the fans love him. Everything's been great. He's been a very unlucky player, not only with the ACL, the horrific ACL injury, right? But even when he did play for Roma, he was kind of famous for hitting the bar, hitting the post, just not quite. Scored a lot of goals, but should always get more. And I was just really happy to see this one go in and just be like, right, you can end this season on a massive positive note, become a key part in this Europa League run potentially, and really get your career kick-started again after that massive injury. So really, really lovely moment from him. And Paulo Dybala has now been involved in the joint most goals in 2024 in Serie A. He's been involved in 12 goals, 9 goals and 3 assists. He's level with Dusan Vlahovic. You just forget how different Roma are when he plays as well. He just makes such a difference to the team, right?
Yeah, I mean, we saw he doesn't get spoken about as much as he deserves to, because I think, when he was younger, he was really sort of burst onto the scene, didn't he, at Juventus? And then, it's almost gone a bit quiet around him until this season. But then this season, obviously, as you say, you can really notice that they're a whole different team. He brings them up at least, 1 or 2 levels, and they just, his chance creation, his finishing is just, I think he's a brilliant player, and I think he's starting to fulfill that potential that we all knew the kind of player he could become, and I think he's becoming that player.
No, exactly. I think it's key for Roma that he stays, touch wood, right? He stays fit for the end of the season, because if they're going to do anything in the Europa League, which I know they've got Bayer Leverkusen, and Leverkusen refuse to lose at the minute, but if they're going to get through that, and if they're going to get this Europa League trophy, he's going to be a huge, huge part of that. I do think Roma have a chance. De Rossi's really doing great things at the moment. But let's leave that game there for now, and we're going to look at the relegation picture a little bit, and let's go for Sassuolo and Udinese doomed, maybe. Now, Cannavaro has come in at Udinese. Fabio is the man in charge. Fantastic to see. He's got a hell of a job on his hands. Now, of course, Udinese drew this weekend. That now makes, I need to get the official count of the draws for Udinese this year. They have 17 draws this season. This season. Absolutely insane. They got another draw against Bologna, which is a good result. On paper, that's a huge result. Bologna obviously flying, looking at Europe. But they did let them equalize once they were down to 10 men, which is incredibly frustrating. But Udinese now find themselves in the relegation zone. They are 2 points behind Empoli, who also lost this weekend. But Udinese's fixtures are not the easiest. They have Napoli at home. You never know. Lecce away, who are basically all but safe now. And then the last 2 are absolutely huge. Empoli at home, who are in the relegation picture as well. And Frosinone away. So their fate is definitely in their hands. But Cannavaro needs to learn this job quickly, right? And just get another goal. All you need to do, Udinese, is just get one more goal in those games and you'll be fine. Just one more goal, right?
Yeah, exactly that. And I mean, as you say, if they'd have got one more goal against Bologna, they would not have obviously bottled it. Yeah. And the fact that Bologna went down to 10 men and at 1-0 up and your opposition goes down to 10 men, you think that's the game won. And I think it's quite a telling sign that they didn't manage to hold on to it. And as you say, some tough games coming up. The Empoli game, it felt like Empoli were maybe looking like they were going to start hitting some form at one point, and then obviously losing this weekend, big sort of not great for them. But yeah, I think if they just need to. I mean, it's obvious to say, but they need to turn some of these draws into wins, and they will be absolutely fine. But it feels like maybe it's a bit too little, too late. And obviously, the appointment of Cannavaro has come at a very strange time. And we were speaking about it last week, and it feels like it's too little, too late. But obviously, that game against Empoli is going to be absolutely like humongous for them. It's a 6 point. It's the definition of a 6-pointer. So the winner of that stays up probably.
Well, this is it exactly. And what the issue is there as well is that like Cannavaro kind of in his first proper coaching role, Chinese football, but in his first kind of management role, is coming up against one of the survival experts of Italy in Davide Nicola. So I think that is going to be a massive, massive test for them. So all eyes will be on that game. But I think the other team we need to talk about is Sassuolo. Now, oh God, they got absolutely slapped 5-1 by Fiorentina in the late kickoff last night. Fiorentina are not a particularly good team. They do not score a lot of goals. But, Sassuolo are very, very generous. They're a very generous team. And they handed them 5. Some of the defending here was absolutely atrocious. I think Sassuolo are going to join Salernitana. Right? I can't see any way they get out of this.
No, I can't see it either. They're 5 points away, like below Empoli. And they just, if you're going to, I didn't think Fiorentina were capable of beating anybody 5-1. To be honest, I know they're sort of still in Europe and everything, but they're in the league. They've been, absolutely diabolical. Yeah. So the fact that they've lost 5-1 there, it feels like it's a sort of sign. When your team, loses like that to another struggling team. I know Fiorentina are a lot higher in the table, but struggling in the last few months, especially when you lose like that, heavy defeat to a team like that, I feel like it's sort of like, see you later. You look at it and you're like, this really doesn't bode well for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think it's just massively throwing their hand in on it. I think there's a few players that will be picked off at Sassuolo, like Torstvedt is one of the few players that's coming out with any credit, not just because he scored yesterday, but he's had a few goals since the new manager's come in. He's had a bit of a resurgence. Josh Doig has only just joined, but I think he is a Serie A player. Trasoldi, there's a few players there that could get moves, but the kind of interesting thing here is that Udinese and Sassuolo are two of the teams that over the last 10 years, Udinese even longer, 20 years, have been the teams that have produced players that have gone on to be huge in other teams in Serie A. If you look at like Sassuolo alone, like bloody hell, Scamacca, you're looking at like Raspadori, you look at all these players that have come through like and gone on to the other big teams and been huge Serie A stars. Udinese, you got Alexis Sanchez, you got just so many players. Montari, I think, was at Udinese for a while. Like, so these two factories of talent have kind of running out of steam a little bit and running out of the kind of recruitment that they had, the knack for recruitment that they had has kind of disappeared a bit. So it'll be interesting to see if they do go down, how they recover, because obviously the Pozzo family with Watford as well, like they do not look like they're going to come up to the Premier League anytime soon either. Watford, really, like I think it's interesting to see which ways these clubs are going to go. But I think Sassuolo are not long for Serie A, unfortunately. And speaking of which, let's move on to Salernitana. We had so much fun with Salernitana in the league. I really enjoyed them being here. I feel we may not see them for some time, though. They lost 3-0 against Frosinone. Frosinone look like they've all but they're still slightly in it, but they're getting a little bit of steam behind them, unbeaten in 5, which is huge. But they obviously just brushed Salernitana to one side here. The Brescianini goal I liked, but the defending from Salernitana, as always, was horrific. I don't know what you think about Salernitana, but I feel like they kind of stuffed up their approach. I think they tried to bring in players like Boateng, and they brought in these players with a little bit of experience and what they hoped would be players who were bringing experience, but ultimately were just mercenaries. It kind of reminds me of QPR when they were in the Premier League, right? That squad just screams QPR under Warnock at me.
Well, I was literally thinking the exact same. I mean, they Their top scorer is 37-year-old Candreva.
He's a baller, but he's
And
old.
he's great. Yeah, he's great, but I mean, he was even better 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But like, I was amazed doing some research about them. That even though they play a 5 at the back formation, it seems to have worked the other way, and it's just invited so much pressure. They've conceded 73 goals in 34 games and only been able to score 26, which really, when you're playing that kind of football where it's inviting pressure, you need to be absolutely watertight at the back. And they clearly just haven't managed to do that at all. And, you know, their top scorer, 37-year-old Candreva, he's got 6 goals in 32, which is, you know, respectable for a 37-year-old in the top flight of European football. But to have that as your top scorer, you're never going to get out of the league. You're never going to stay in the league. Sorry. It really isn't looking good. I mean, they're down, but
it'll be interesting to see, like I said, how they deal with Serie B and where the squad goes from here, because they kind of really banked on those short-term deals, and like, you know, I'm sure there's release clauses. I'm sure they might only be 1-year contracts, but there's a lot of work to do with this squad. There's still some players that I think have shown flashes and have given us moments of promise. Like Trauna, I think, has shown moments of promise, and Ikwemeze has been okay, but they just don't have that end product. Like you said, the top scorer, 6 goals, is just not. It's just simply not good enough. But Sassuolo, we've enjoyed having you around. You gave us some incredible scenes. One of my favorite moments for Salernitana is still the first season they stayed up. They needed to win on the last game of the season, and they lost 5-0 at home, but the other team lost. So they went down. And Salernitana players were celebrating on the pitch. I thought, have some shame, man. Have some shame. Just, I don't like being celebration police, but you've just been slapped at home. Like, you didn't hold up your end of the bargain, boys. But yeah, some incredible moments. Hiring and sacking Davide Nicola within 48 hours was another great moment. So yeah, I'm sure. Hopefully they won't be away too long, because it's great to have a team from Salerno in there as well. That derby with Napoli, it doesn't happen often, but it's always a good one when it does. Elsewhere in Serie A, just very quickly to go through the results. We've purposely not talked about Juve Milan, because that was an absolute abomination to football. Both of those teams, nothing to play for. Lecce drawing 1-1 with Monza. 92nd minute goal from Krstovic for Pessina to equalise in the 96th minute. Incredible scenes there. Lazio getting a massive win against Verona. Zaccagni against his old team. Verona massively needed a result there to just keep themselves out of the relegation fight, but Lazio getting a win to keep them just in touch with the European spots. Maybe they'll get Conference League next year. Bologna 1, Udinese 1, as we said. Atalanta 2, Empoli 0. Lookman with a nice finish at the end here. Great to see him scoring again. And this evening, it's just finished. Genoa beat Cagliari. It's incredible to think these two teams both came up last year. Genoa won 3-0, and they have looked so comfortable in Serie A this year. It's been incredible. Cagliari, I think, have just about doing enough. They just need to pick up 1 or 3 more points, and they should be okay. But that is a big loss for them. Of course, Gudmundsson getting another goal for Genoa. I feel like he might be getting a big move at the end of the year. And maybe Gilardino, I'm trying to start the rumor mill of him getting the Fiorentina job. I want to manifest it into realization. I feel like he should be getting linked to more jobs, the job he's done at Genoa. And I think Fiorentina, we need to see him on the bench at La Viola, right? It just needs to happen.
Oh, it'd be brilliant to see. Yeah, definitely.
I would absolutely love that. Guys, we're going to leave Serie A there, and we do have to very quickly talk about some European action. Even though the English clubs aren't around, I'm not going to be too bitter with Arsenal getting kicked out. And let's talk about the Champions League very quickly. We have on Tuesday evening, it's a biggie, Bayern Munich taking on Real Madrid. I'm proper excited about this game, even though it should be Arsenal. I'm really excited about watching this game. How do you see this one going?
I think it's been very, very, very good game. And I mean, I know that's not sort of a controversial opinion at all, but like I think Bayern is just so entertaining to watch this season, almost more so than when they sort of walk the league, because you just don't know what you're going to get with them at all. You could get the team that beats Arsenal, or you can get a team that completely bottles the title. And I think if they're at their A game, they've got every chance of I would say like making an upset, but I don't think it's necessary. It would necessarily be an upset in that sense. But Real Madrid will be going into it favourites. I think that Real Madrid are going to come out on top though, purely because it's Real Madrid and it's the Champions League. They've already, for me, the Man City game felt like the final. In terms of, I said whoever wins that, I will back to win the Champions League. Because I think if you overcome a team like City, who are obviously on the back of winning the treble, I think it bodes really well for Real Madrid. So I'll predict that Real Madrid will progress, but I think it'll be very high scoring.
Yeah, I feel like Bayern get a result in Munich, but then Real Madrid turn it around at the Bernabeu. I think it's just Bellingham's going to get a last-minute winner, isn't he? Because that's what he does. And then on Wednesday night, we have Dortmund taking on PSG. I said it when this was decided. I'm going to stick with it. I think Dortmund get through to the final. I think PSG massively bottle this. What do you think?
I can see it happening. Because I was having a discussion with someone the other day, and they're saying that they think because PSG have Enrique, they think that they're going to win. And I said, well, week in, week out, I'd never describe it as a farmers league, but the French league, it's not the same level of quality as Italian league, Premier League, La Liga. And I think that will come to bite them in the arse. I think the fact that they're playing less teams week in, week out, right, and then going to play teams like Dortmund, who obviously the Bundesliga this season has been really competitive. So I think I see it being another. Maybe I'm just being really optimistic as a neutral, but I think it's going to be another really high scoring time.
I think
Dortmund is so entertaining.
Right. I think you're right. There's goals all over both of these ties. There's goals all over them, I think Dortmund have been like, obviously they have disappointed in the Bundesliga last year, but when don't they disappoint, Dortmund? But they have saved their best football for the Champions League this year. And they've been like going to Dortmund, big atmosphere. I think I can feel it. Dortmund are going to get something here. I hope I'm right. We're going to go to the Cool Kids Club, and we have Marseille hosting Atalanta. Atalanta make it to the final. I think I'm going to put my neck on the line there. If you can get out of Marseille with a draw, I think in Bergamo, Atalanta make it to the final, right? Marseille are so hard to predict, but they do have Aubameyang, so you never know.
Yeah, I agree. I think Atalanta's quality will be too much for them. But as you say, I'm guessing as an Arsenal fan, you hope he misses another sitter. And even though the PTSD will come back, it might still be,
It'll help me rest a little bit.
Yeah.
It'll help me rest. Help me rest. No, that's very true. And also on Thursday night, of course, at the same time, why can't you just stagger the kickoffs, for God's sake? We have Roma taking on Leverkusen. Now, this is a spicy one. Leverkusen, of course, looking like they were 2-0 down against Stuttgart. 96th minute, they get an equaliser. The unbeaten run continues. Can De Rossi put a spoke in the wheels of Leverkusen, or do you think Leverkusen are going to have too much here?
I think Leverkusen are going to have too much, but I do think that it's going to be a typical Roma go 2-1 up, Leverkusen score 2 goals after 90 minutes. I was watching the game this weekend when they just literally, they will be like not playing the best football, losing, and then suddenly it gets to the 85th minute and they just turn into like 2011 Barca. And in their own right, they're an incredible team. So I shouldn't really be comparing them to other teams, but they are phenomenal. And I can't see anyone stopping them. But I mean, I'm a bit torn because obviously I have a love for Italian football, but at the same time,
no, Leverkusen are a different.
I'd love to see Leverkusen. Yeah. I'd love to see Leverkusen go unbeaten. So I think Leverkusen are going to do it.
No, I think they will just squeeze through, but I think Roma are really, really, really going to push him. And then finally, we have the even cooler kids club as we finally have English representation. Woo! We have Aston Villa going all the way to Piraeus, not Athens, as a lot of Aston Villa fans were saying on Twitter. I hope they got the right, they got to the right city. But Aston Villa without Emi Martinez because of his penalty shootout shenanigans. This is a tricky one. The second leg being in Greece is huge, right? Do you think Villa can get past this? They've got Emery, right?
Yeah, and I think, as we say, like, I know he can sort of choke up things, but Emery in Europe is, he knows what he's doing. He's a manager that's got tons of experience in Europe. And I think squad-wise as well, I think Villa have the best squad left in the Conference League. Yeah. And I think the combination of having that squad, having a manager who's a, seasoned veteran at winning these competitions or doing well in these competitions, I think their quality will be too much. Saying that, I don't watch a lot of Greek football. I can't claim to. I've seen them a little bit in the Conference League, but not like, I don't claim to sort of watch them all the time. So they might surprise me and get something out of Villa, but, to call it, I would say Villa. I don't think it'll be easy, but no, I think they'll progress.
Out of principle, I just don't watch Olympiacos because every time we've played them, they've fucking embarrassed us, and I just can't face that PTSD. Yeah. I think Villa get through, but that second leg in Greece is going to be absolutely huge because that atmosphere. If Emi Martinez tries any of his shithouses in that second leg, he's going to be hung from the top of the stadium. I think he needs to be careful. And in the second leg, in the second tie, we have Fiorentina. Can they make it back-to-back Conference League finals as they take on Club Brugge? Fiorentina again. They've been kind of saving their best football for the Conference League. Barak scored in Serie A this weekend, actually, but has saved most of his goal for the Conference League. Fiorentina should be getting past Club Brugge, right?
Yeah, they definitely they should be getting through, but it's
whether they do or not.
They've been so unpredictable this season, and just like as you said, they don't score a lot of goals, and but then they don't score a lot of goals, and then they go and put five past people. So it doesn't make any sense, their season. No. So that means they're probably going to go on and win the competition, aren't they?
Well, it would be incredible to see, I'll be honest. But maybe it was the perfect time to play Sassuolo. Just get a few goals, get a bit of belief going, and you're like, right, okay, semi-final, let's go. It might have been really, really good timing for them, actually. But we will see how those ties go. Guys, that's everything for this week. We managed to squeeze it in just under an hour and a half, so you're welcome. We will be back on Friday, of course, to talk about all the midweek action and preview another huge weekend in the Premier League. Kieran, thanks for coming on. It's been a pleasure, man, as always. I'm sure you'll be on again. When our listeners and viewers want to find your stuff online, where can they find you?
So I'm on Twitter mainly, KHAnalytics02 and Kieran Hill Footy are my two accounts. I mainly tweet from waffle from the Kieran Hill Footy one and then put actual important stuff in the other one. But that's where you can find me. But it's a pleasure coming on, so I appreciate it.
Mate, always an absolute pleasure. And I cannot finish the show. I've not actually mentioned the fact that Crew Alexandra made the playoffs this weekend.
There you go.
It was an incredible, incredible weekend. If you've not seen the clip at the end of Crew Alexandra versus Colchester United, please check it out. Germany versus Austria and 82 vibes. Incredible stuff. Up Lee Bell's Mighty Reds, I'm hoping that I'll be booking a flight to London very, very soon. But guys, thank you as always. Hit the like and subscribe button if you liked it. Even if you didn't, just hit the like and subscribe button. You can find us on Twitter at Italian Anglo Pod, on Instagram and TikTok at Anglo-Italian Pod. And we will see you on Friday, guys. Thank you as always. Ciao. Arrivederci.